ask you to start off with an introduction and your why. So, Mark, can you go first, please?
Yeah, hi guys. Good to see everybody again. My name's Mark Hilinski, and Kim and I are the founders of Hilinski's Hope. We lost our middle son Tyler to suicide in 2018. Tyler was an amazing guy, just like all the women here. Each unique and each have their own story. In Tyler's case, we didn't know anything about a struggle that he was going through. Whether we should or not is a is what we've been doing for the last kind of 8 years. Try to figure out the why and how we lost Tyler. But as we've had the opportunity to, the difficult opportunity to work with this group of men and their wives and others that join this club that nobody wants to belong to, we hope and pray that we can do something that will alter the course of a young person's life with their mental health. And no other family has to experience the tragedy that we all sit here and smile, because you got to move forward. I don't know that you move on. And we'll continue to do this as long as we can and as long as it's effective. It's great to see these guys, and know we'll have a great day. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Mark. Kurt?
Sure. My name is Kurt Rogers. I am Morgan's father. Morgan passed away July 11th of 2019 by suicide as well. And much like a lot of the parents that we encounter through our travels, we also did not see this coming. There was no heads up, no warning, and it involved just a person that you would never expect this. I mean, she was a spark plug, and she was wide open. She was so fun. I mean, witty, funny, and super athletic, and just her bond with her friends and family was so strong. I mean, she was just a extremely caring and generous and passionate person. Very well prepared, always, just always on top of everything. It was like having another adult in the house. She was a parent, and she was just so much fun to be around. So we started Morgan's Message 1 year after her passing, and it's our purpose is to help. We're creating peer-to-peer support groups. You have to start small, so we started with let's focus on student athletes, and what we wanted to do. We knew that getting to the administration was going to be difficult. We know that coaches have a certain agenda that they've got to win. Ours is starting at the ground and working its way up. So we sort of train and encourage student leaders and the ambassadors to start a group on their campus. And to this date, we have 5,700 plus or minus ambassadors on 1,766 campuses across the United States.
So awesome.
So it is just exploded. Year one, it just doubled, and then it doubled, then it doubled, then it doubled. And it's, you think from a business mind, that's like, well, that's great. Your business is prospering. And when Don and I stop and we think, we're like, oh, I wish this could just close.
Yep.
I wish we didn't have to do this. I wish we weren't supporting this. But then you snap out of it, and then you realize we are reaching so many student athletes. And I think COVID actually helped our cause slightly, but it's amazing the feedback that we get. It's amazing when we go to events or we travel, we go to campuses and we speak. I mean, parents writing, students writing, everybody reaching out saying, thank you so much. Thank you. We're sorry what happened to you, but thank you so much. And, that kind of makes you want to, get up the next day.
Right.
And I know that everyone feels this way. I never want one other person, one other family to have to go through this.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely horrible, but you have to learn from it. You have to grow. You have to get up and be there. You know, we still have other children. We have grandchildren,
Yeah, you do.
and you have to be there for them. And we've sort of adopted, you know, 6,000 student ambassadors and all their teammates and their families. And so, you know, if we can help them, then that's what we're happy to do.
You certainly are. You are. Wow. Okay, Scott.
Hi. Still good morning for me here. So Scott Schulze, I'm a co-founder along with my wife Bridget, Sarah Shulze Foundation. So we started that in 2022 after we lost Sarah to suicide in April of 2022. Like you know, she was a student athlete, uh, and like so many student athletes, the high achiever, it's very strong, everything else. And so when this happened, it was trying to figure out the why is always a little difficult. You know, our situation was a little different. We knew at the time of her death that she was in crisis. So we had we had indications at that point that there was, you know, she was having a tough time. But by no means did we really know what was going on. There was no indication of suicide being part of that discussion. But nonetheless, that was the reality. So we kind of in the aftermath, we were kind of wondering what can we do to make sure maybe this trend stops. Unfortunately, in 2022, Sarah's death was 6 weeks after Katie's. I hear that story, and we had actually talked about Katie's death, and yet we didn't get to a point where we had discussions about Sarah herself.
Yeah.
So I think it's you know, we've tried to have impact in the area of mental health for student athletes. Sarah was a big proponent of women's rights and other things like that. So we've tried to have an impact in the foundation and do some of the things where she was trying to really move forward with things. She was very much into advocacy for others, and we just wish she'd had more advocacy for herself at times, which is a tough thing. So we've kind of been going forward with that, where we're trying to help wherever we think we can. We've kind of watched the great things that Kurt, you and Mark and your foundations have been able to do, and see where we can contribute to helping those, or where we can have our own direct impact, some local, some broader, wherever it is that we feel like, okay, maybe we can have an impact and help. If it's just helping one kid and one family, maybe it's broader than that, but maybe if that's all it is, then we'll try and keep going forward with that. So that's what the foundation's done, is it's kind of trying to find its spots in where we can be part of that discussion, and maybe have, you know, that's mostly what we've done when we've done some things, is afterwards when you hear somebody who just said, oh, I had a great conversation with my own kid and it was the best 10 minutes we've had, maybe that had an impact. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. That's where we've been trying to stay and move forward. And I think, like you guys said, like, we're going to try to keep doing it if we think it has impact, and if we think we can continue to do it, as it's not always easy to be.
It's not. No.
Yeah, right. It's not always easy to be in it. So
you are touching and changing and saving lives. Thank you. And Steve?
Hi, everybody. Steve Meyer. I'm Katie Meyer's father. My wife, Gina, and I founded Katie's Save, a nonprofit, after she passed away. We generally have pursued legislative change to look out for our students on campuses across the nation. That's been an endeavor that, you know, we've had to be educated along the way, because we were not politically active people. And so we've taken on a big education and happy to do it. We have a law here in California called Katie Myers Law now in place for our public universities, all the UCs, the Cal States, community colleges. And basically that law is when a student gets involved in an administrative conflict, they have the right and will be encouraged to choose an outside the university advisor, somebody they trust. And it may be a parent and it may not be a parent. It could be their uncle, their aunt, the youth pastor, their high school coach, if they were an athlete, maybe their favorite high school math teacher, whoever. We have learned that it's really important for somebody outside the university to know about this situation that they may be in. And that person will get an education on the resources available at the university, what the process will look like to reach an appropriate resolution given the situation, and also very importantly, a biweekly update on what's happening. This way, the student isn't left weeks on end wondering what's happening, and they can ruminate and spiral. And so it'll help, I believe, with even just the mental health of somebody in a situation just along the way. You know, ultimately, of course, we want to save lives and reduce suicides to zero. Katie was involved in an administrative conflict at her university. We were unaware of it. She was 3 months shy of graduation and received a letter placing her degree on hold and threatening removal from the university. And whether it's a student athlete or a student, you know, we use the phrase life's work a lot with somebody who's 70 years old or 80 years old. Their life's work was da 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 da. Well, I think sometimes we as a society forget that the life's work of a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, whatever, that matters to them too, because that's their life's work. To be able to be qualified to be a student and an athlete at these schools has taken a lot. And when they feel their identity is being threatened in such high stakes manner, they can shut down even the strongest of them. And I am grateful, as strange as that sounds, to be part of the group with you gentlemen. I think we all share a moment in our lives where we were absolutely shattered as fathers and our world stood still. And I think part of every day of our life, our world still stands still. But I'm really proud of you guys and your wives for even within that framework we're sort of trapped in, that you guys have all pushed forward. Your families have pushed forward. Everybody here, you guys have done incredible work. And when you wonder if you've had impact, yeah, you absolutely have. Not only on young people, but even on myself. You know, I look at all three of you from afar as inspiration and your families, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Great. So great. You know, I'm listening to you, you know, describe your child, and they seemed that they all had this common trait. They were happy, high energy, loved their sport, loved their family, loved their friends, no idea, and then they're gone, right? If you could, what would you share? And we'll start with you, Scott. Something, a trait that your child had, that Sarah had, Scott, that you know you wish the world would know about.
Yeah, so many times when they're successful student athletes, you hear about all their athletic accomplishments, right?
Yeah.
And the sad thing is when they're gone, it's almost the last thing we thought about as parents.
Right.
It's like, sure, she was a runner, she was great, all that. She was also the oldest sister in our family. She was the oldest grandchild. So for her, she had this kind of other role that was always very much of a leader. But she had such passion for others, which was she was always involved with community things, other things, always trying to be a leader and always trying to help other people all the time. And her compassion for other people and what was was going on in other people's lives, it almost sometimes I think was bigger than she was able to deal with her own life at times. And that was hard. Like, I mean, I think everybody else sees from the outside, they see, that's why a lot of times it's so shocking is they see this super strong, successful, high achieving person.
Yeah.
But underneath, I would say she was still just a girl, and she was vulnerable, and all those things that just made her such a special person. Besides from all the other things that were successful, she was funny. She loved to laugh, and all those things are kind of what we always remember. Even though you see so much else when you read the articles or the other things that get talked about, it's like, oh, is this and this is the athlete or this or this, and then as a dad, I think you remember her as the person, and that's kind of the more and more you look at going back, and sometimes you almost forget all the other achievements, and that's what you remember. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Kurt, you want to share a little bit about Morgan?
It's funny because Scott just kind of took the words right out of my mouth that I've never thought of until I just heard it. But I know for Don and I and her friends and family and all the people that work for Morgan's Message, you don't look back at the all everything accolades. You don't look at that's not how we remember. It's phenomenal athlete in this and a phenomenal athlete in that and all everything. You say, gosh, she was so funny. You just that's, we remember the person. She was so witty, and like Morgan she was doing TikTok videos before TikTok was invented. Okay, she would film herself doing these goofy little dances or stunts or something, and she broke our oven door because she was doing parkour in her kitchen, filming it just to be a goofy.
I think I've seen that video. Yeah.
Then she realized. But she would send videos to her friends, if they had a big interview or a huge test or something. She would just send them a goofy little video saying, hey, I'm thinking of you. You're going to do great. And, just that's what I always go back to is remembering is I don't care how many goals she scored and how many times she made all recognition of something in her sport. It's, man, she was cool. She was just so friendly, and that's what I missed the most. It's just that having that person. And like I said, it was like having a roommate sometimes. It was like having another parent here. She just was so put together. I got a plan, doing this, take care of that. This is already taken care of. That's taken care of. Got this. And it's like, wow. It makes you really proud as a father.
Yeah.
That somewhere along the line she listened to me.
She sure did.
That's a little bit the way. I mean, I like to be prepared. I like to have everything taken care of. And she was that same way, which is again that makes you proud that you're raising a capable person.
Yeah.
You're raising someone very qualified to tackle life. And I just I still to this day can't figure out how this ended up being our story. Someone that prepared, that confident, that comfortable. So we're, and I don't know that I'll ever know, but we're going to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Thankful for you. Yeah. Steve, tell us about Katie.
Similar in many respects, and I think at least for me, I will say, and I'll admit, I struggle almost every day at some point with my heartbreak of her being gone because we were so close and she was so close to her sisters. And she, as we've learned from her passing, she clearly uplifted so many people she encountered throughout her years, whether it was elementary school, junior high, high school, at the university. Um, so I try to find gratitude every day in that. And
Mhm.
that's what I think, at least for me as a dad, I don't know about you guys, but it's hard sometimes. It's heartbreaking to have lost a child. And especially, again, we have a commonality, I believe, where these were very put together young people.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the shock of it all. I've spent a lot of time listening to different podcasts. Everybody grieves differently. Some people read, some people write, some people pray, or a combination thereof. And I've come across some different concepts that help me at least understand a little bit. One is called derealization, and it's generally the more earnest and authentic and loving somebody is from the inside out, the more they can shatter when they're encountering forces of malevolence in their life,
Mm.
because it doesn't add up somewhere in their mind. Like, that's not how the world was supposed to be. Um, and so I'm just dealing with a lot of that, trying to, again, same with you guys, sort of, I think we struggle as parents with the why. Why did that happen? And I think it's okay to struggle with that. And I think it's okay to search for that. Um, Katie was a magnetic personality, and that's not trying to be, I don't know, like proud dad kind of thing. It just is who she was. Um, and from when she was little,
Mhm.
and she brought people together. She was very much an inspirational type human being. And I just miss her tremendously.
Yeah, me too.
And on we go.
Yeah. Yeah. They all sound so much alike, just the light in the room, the candle that burned so bright. And Mark, when we do our Tyler talks together, he always shares this, and it's absolutely so true. And I see this in your daughters too. We love, all of our children, all our three boys, but we really like Tyler. And he's just was so easy to get along with. So, Mark, what would you want the world to know about Tyler? You share anything?
Yeah, it's tough. There's so many things, Tyler's kind of football career was so ended so a couple weeks before he died, so there's a lot of the sports stuff in there. But I think the one thing, of the many things, and I know the guys have many things for the girls, and and I've heard them, right, whether they're ambassadors or friends of the family, or when we go to campuses and stuff. But I think the one that hit me the hardest, because I think the Hilinski family, Kym and I and the boys, we would all tell you the same thing about Tyler. Tyler was super funny. He was he would do anything. Hey, Ty, I think I'm gonna go outside and throw rocks at the tree. He's like, let's go. What? I'll get the rocks. There was nothing he didn't want to do with his family. And so as we were, as we've all done, as we go through that, why did this happen? Journey, and ours started earlier in time than yours, I suppose. Um and this is the thing about Tyler, is we knew he was sweet, we knew he was very kind. He give his shirt off his back kind of thing. Those were all true. But when we started talking to his friends and his teammates about him, they all had a very similar story that I didn't catch early on, which was, yeah, Tyler. This is one we probably share the most. But oh yeah, I remember when Tyler. I barely knew him. I just joined the team, and I was late to practice or late to lift or something, because my aunt had been rushed to the hospital. She was in a car accident, broke her wrist. 90 days later, he said I probably interacted with Tyler 5 other times, and he pulls me aside at the weight room again and says, "Hey, how's your aunt doing? What's going on? What's the family?" And so you hear that story a lot, and it's a sweet story, and all our kids do it, I'm sure. But we heard it so often that it's become for us the thing that Tyler did to not talk about himself, right? So if he's talking about Kurt, Oh man, I saw what you're doing today. What a neat thing. How's it? Anything I can help with? If he's always the guy, so we see that particularly with his teammates, a little less so with his brothers, but guys in the same room, same campus, same huddle. He was always looking out for them. And so they would tell us, hey, when we just, he wasn't a rock star, magnetic is not the thing, but everybody wanted to be around him. And I couldn't figure that part out, because he was quiet. He's our B type. Kelly, if you guys have met Kelly or Ryan, they're wear it on their sleeves, pissed off or happy or whatever, walking in there, they just got it, or they had a great date or whatever. With Tyler, he was a little less that way, demonstrative, but now as we look back, as we all do, and I think Steve, you're exactly right. We all, at some point, each day, each week, whatever we got going, you take a minute, whether you do it on purpose. I try to do mine on purpose, so I try to get ahead of the emotions, but sometimes you can't. It just hits you, and you think about things you miss. In Tyler's case, the hard part is I think he really wanted to help everybody else. And I don't know if that had anything to do with why he left. I don't know if it, what role that played, but it seemed like a really good cover. He convinced some pretty, Coach Leach was a maniac in a lot of ways, but he and Tyler are very close. And he's still, towards the end there, we lost Coach Leach, not too long ago, and he just couldn't believe it either. And we hear that so often, and I'm sure you guys hear it as often, but I think that the one trait for Tyler was he really was the guy giving you his lunch money if you needed it,
Yeah.
Good friend.
Yeah, right. So, having Hilinski's hope that, when Tyler was a man, we interact a lot with our male student athletes. And what we've learned is that, they are so fearful of appearing weak and not strong and not being, the typical man or what a man looks like. So we're going to dive deep a little bit here. As dads, as men, how did your grief show up physically, emotionally? And what was hardest on you as a dad specifically? And Kurt, can you start us off?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, I'm very much of a planner and laying things out. And I, I don't know. I've always been a very responsible person since I was a little kid, and probably the hardest thing for me to was just to figure out the why.
Yeah.
Like, what did I do wrong? What did you can always have a lot of self blame, like, and he said, no, don't go down that road, Kurt. That's not, it wasn't you. We had a, we have a really close family. Morgan was a twin sister. Okay. We have a son, Austin, that is 2 years older than them. And, Don and I have a great marriage. You just try to put it all together. Like, what did I do wrong? As a dad, you're like, you're responsible. You got to take care of this family. This is your job. It's like, where did I fail? And, you come back around and say, you got to say to yourself, Kurt, you didn't do anything wrong. Something was hurting in her soul.
Yep.
And, it's just tough. I still look back on it and say, could I have done something different? What could I have done? And then you say, you know what? All you can do today is continue to be a great husband and a great father and a great grandfather.
Yeah.
To the rest of the people in your life, and be a good employer, be a good boss, be a good neighbor, and just try to cherish the great memories that you have with her, I love looking through photos. I remember exactly where this took place. I remember what happened that day. Um, what happened the next day, and it's just try to keep feeling the love and maybe I don't know if it's right, but I've kind of given up on trying to guess where I went wrong or why this happened, and it helps me to just again focus on the things that made me laugh and the things that made me smile, and that's how I get to it.
Well, that's a different journey for all of us to get to that point to where you can remember and smile and laugh. I mean, do you know how many years it took you to get to that point when you thought about her in the
Um,
memory?
well, I'd say I don't. A lot of times I don't have it at all.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's kind of in progress, Kim. I just know that some days, some moments, I'm afforded the ability to smile.
yeah.
Um, it's not always like all of the guys here. It's sometimes it just hits you out of the blue. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a terrible day, because you're sad.
Yeah.
And then maybe a couple hours later, something happens, and you're like, "Oh, that was so funny," and she and so I just shoot for the little parts here and there, uh,
Yeah.
shoot for the little goals that I can achieve, which
Yeah.
which makes me smile, and I think staying real busy. I
Oh
know
God.
I right after her passing, I probably mowed my grass, every day of the week.
Oh,
I washed cars. I was just like, I got to be busy. I got to do something.
Yeah.
Um, it couldn't just be sit around
yeah.
and grieve. It's like, no, no, no. I just almost want to wake up. That was just a terrible dream.
Yeah.
But again, everyone processes differently. Don and I processed this completely different, and she couldn't understand how I was grieving the way I did. Um, but then we both come to the realization that you process your way, I'll process mine,
That's
and
right.
you know we'll be together still.
Yeah, that's true. We have a phrase we use, well, Mark and my oldest son came up with it. It's we patience and grace, right? We have to have
Yeah.
patience. We do all grieve differently, and then grace, right, for the people in our lives that are, struggling and grieving too. So, Steve, being a man, and you have all daughters, how did you, show your grief physically, emotionally? Um,
Honestly, physically, it was a lot of crying
yeah,
for quite a while, and it was painful
yeah,
crying. It wasn't like um, sitting in a movie theater and watching a sad moment in a movie and you tear up a little bit. It was visceral, painful crying, and it hurt. Uh,
mm,
that faded over time, but it still will hit me every once in a while, unexpectedly, to be honest. And then, as a father and as a man, I think we all share a little bit of this. You feel like it's your job to protect your family, to raise your kids and to protect them. And yet at the same time, when they're at university, you're hoping the way you brought them up and you can't protect them when they're 400 miles away or when they're half a country away or wherever, on the daily, you just can't, it's physically impossible. And so it's hard. It's hard. Um, and it's a mix of emotions. And I now, ever since Katie passed away early on, I also take 15 minutes if I can a day. And I just lay down in a recliner, this little dumpy recliner we have, and I intentionally go through memories I
mm,
have of spending time with her. And that's the way I process this and grieve because not everything is in a photograph or in a video. And so I search for the ones that are not
mm,
Right.
Yeah.
photograph or video. And I've been fortunate enough to find a lot of them. And I never want to let those go.
yeah,
Uh, So yeah, it's challenging, and I would be lying if I said I'm still not going to cry again.
Oh yeah,
You know,
Right.
it's a terrible situation.
it is.
That'll
Just
end my answer for now because my neighbors have gardeners going, and you can probably hear them.
oh,
But
that's
thank you.
okay.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
Kurt will
question.
come over and help them out.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Give me the ride on.
yeah. That's right.
Right.
Oh, Scott, so you're a dad of girls too.
Yeah, three
How did
girls.
you, yeah, how did, great way. I'm of three too. I have two sisters, so it was so much fun growing up. But
Yeah.
how did you, if you even can, keep it together? How did you process that emotion and the grief being a dad, or typically what people think it should look like?
Yeah, what it should look like, who knows,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like, I mean, it was just purely painful at first. It's all it was. And I think, you know, it would go in waves, and there were times when, like her, I'm a planner, I'm a this. So structure's huge, and so I think I dived into. I was probably almost manic at times of just like trying to do everything for the first like few months in terms of that grief of just trying to still keep everything together, keep the family together, make sure these kids are good. I mean, we had one who was
Mm.
still one was at college, one was in high school, trying to make sure where they were going back and forth, and like when Sarah's passing happened back in Wisconsin, we're trying to deal with it there. We had the unfortunate situation too, where we had like 8 or 9 days back there before she died. That was horrendously traumatic.
Mm.
Mm.
So it was just heavy. It was just heavy. Like it's hard. So the grief, I mean, for me physically, yeah, I I cried every day for a while, and I didn't care. It's like
Yeah.
great, bring it. Like I'm gonna just let it all be out there. I'd say in the first 6 months, I can't even describe how many really deep conversations I had with other friends and two dads sitting around crying.
Yeah.
Literally, like I don't know, we'd be out at a restaurant for lunch, and both of us just sitting there bawling, just talking about stuff, talking
Yeah.
about our own kids. But for me, it's so weird. I love it when it hits me.
Mm.
Uh,
I like to be in it. I like to feel it. So for me, it means that connection's still there. As weird as it sounds, it's like
Mm-mm.
the emotion and the grief comes into me, and then I feel her. So like even when we're talking now, I'm like, good. I want to feel it.
Yeah.
But I think you also then to figure out how to like, okay, how do we always go forward? How do we go forward? How does your family go forward? It wasn't easy. And I think Steve can remember that spring of 22 is weird. There were so many athletes that passed away that spring, and it became this it was in the national news like crazy. We didn't even know that was going on, but then it kind of was part of it too. So I know Bridget struggled a bit with it because there was no hiding from it. Everybody knew. So and you felt like every single person everywhere knew what was going on. So you couldn't just sneak away and go to the grocery store because everybody knew exactly what was going on, which is not realistic at all. Not what, but it certainly felt that way at times. And so you couldn't just sit, you just couldn't kind of hide and go through your grief some of those days. Sometimes you felt like, oh my gosh, it's just everywhere all the time. Um, and then I think the process since has just been time helps, patience, grace, and then I think the other word is space. At times you need
Yeah,
space.
that's
Um,
right.
Sometimes it's just like, hey, right now I can't be in it. I need some space to be away from it, and that at this time I need a little bit. And then you try and figure out for each person around you, what do my kids need?
Yeah.
What do they need to see from me as a dad? Um, to show them a path that like we're going to get not through it, but we're going to learn how to live with it. And this is part of our story, our life now. So how do how do we do it? It's okay to have good days and bad days. It's okay to this. And then, um, so then, we kind of each, we kind of, I can't even remember who told us that we try to recapture some joy all the time. We try to recapture parts of your life and parts of your things and just incrementally recapture things that are good and where that goodness can be. And then how does the how does your new how does Sarah fit into that now that she's not with us here? But how do we recapture these things? And some of us we kind of went back and we did some travel that we had planned to do with Sarah, and we're like, well, we're still going to do it, and Sarah's going to be there with us, but just different. And everything became, how do we do those things now with this new reality that with this huge hole, and we fill up some other things, and Sarah's still there, just different. And so I think the grief then it just evolves. It evolves. It's always evolving. Like it's hard. It's just
Yeah.
hard. There's nothing else to it. It's just hard.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I think Mark, you probably feel similar to what these three dads just shared. How did your grief hit you emotionally, Mark? And I know this,
Well,
but maybe I don't know.
yeah, no, you probably know most. I first of all, it's just to listen to these guys. It's I'm over here like a rocking horse, nodding my head, listening. I think it's beautiful, Scott. And you said it real. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it because I think all of us probably at some point have that understanding or that feeling like it's supposed to hurt, right? Like, at what point is it okay? Oh, well, Katie's gone. That was a while. Are you kidding me? So I love that. And, however that comes up, I think, I don't know, I come up with this story, but, we're all working and doing our best and trying to take care of our families and their health and their opportunities. And, your world, you think you couldn't squeeze another minute into it. And then you lose somebody like Tyler, which it's still, even just listening to the words, it's sort of ridiculous. But I was, there's a partner of mine, another co-founder of this business we were in, and he lost his wife, we still don't know. She died, natural causes, whatever, 50 or 49. And I was real close, he and I worked next to each other in the office and traveled all the time together. And I would ask, this is before Tyler died. And so he always wanted to go to lunch, and we go to lunch, and some days he wouldn't be able to. And I would say, Mark, his name was Mark too. So what worries you or what bothers you? And he goes, it's grief. It'll just out of nowhere, it'll just hit me and I can't control it. And he's about 9 years older than me. I want to say a generation older in a sense, but he was very stoic. He's a Orange County Republican, and he had to dress a certain way and eat at a certain place and have a certain car and all these things. And I remember thinking, he's gone through the hardest thing he's ever gone through, and he's actually afraid. Just again, I'm not picking on him. I love the guy. I still talk to him. He's written a book. He's remarried, and his last wife died this year or last year. But I remember thinking about that all the time because he was right. And you guys just all said it. Kurt said it at the beginning. It's just, you have no idea what might trigger that. And so, being out of our group, I'll be honest, when it was clear to me that Tyler died by suicide, one of my many thoughts was, oh my God, this is the first time this has ever happened, right? And so, again, proximity to the football that Tyler was involved in and the bowl games and all that stuff made it a quick story fast. And all of a sudden, you had to answer these questions, and you had a choice. You could just step into it and try. And I remember thinking, if not showing your emotions is a symptom of this, or part of the cause, or rub dirt on it or put tape on it or whatever, then I got to answer these questions however I can best do it. And I do it the same way we do our Tyler talks, and when we go out and meet with the kids in the schools and the student athlete mental health week stuff. You all have to, I couldn't figure out a way to not let that grief show up. And I just took it and said, okay, that's my little contribution. But so crying or staring, just, Kurt and I talking about mowing the yard, comparing lawnmowers, and then you'll just be all of a sudden be 30 seconds, 60 seconds later, people look at you like, you okay? Everything all right? And I think I'm doing what you were saying, Steve. You have these moments where you got to indulge them right then, right? So, and Scott said earlier about, and I love that not all of our memories are caught on tape. All our kids played something, played a sport, played a bunch of sports. We got all these family photo albums. We got everything. God blessed cameras and stuff. But there are those moments, right? There's some really important ones. So I love hearing that from you guys. I also think, sadly, I had to watch you guys go through it, in a sense, right? That we get these calls. I know you guys get them all the time. Kym and I get them every week. We had a 10-year-old die by suicide, and the only thing their friends could think of doing was to call Hilinski's Hope. Like nobody wants to hear from us. So you watch. I've watched each of you grapple with and succeed for your kids, for your families, for your daughters first, right? And then you just drag the rest of them with you, whether that's fighting, unfair laws, whether that's bringing kids together on campus, whether that's finding the spots where you think you can be most creative and most helpful. And I think Kym and I have always, we didn't know, like we know what we're doing. We have no flipping clue. We're trying. The fairest answer is this: I'm trying to build or make or participate in something that I think Tyler would have actually benefited from, right? The football player, the kid I know, okay, so, we get modules, learning pieces, learn the vocabulary, don't be afraid of those words, that kind of stuff. And that's it. There's no playbook. Kurt said it early on. What's the plan? Nobody hands you anything. So it was tough. I think, I wish I had more composure then to realize the impact on the rest of the kids, Tyler and Kelly, Ryan and Kelly. And they were both at different stages of life. Obviously, Ryan was still playing. We found out Tyler had CTE stage 1. We have to deal with that. So it seemed like a lot of, it's the right word. It seemed like from the male standpoint a little bit is you're trying to approve everything or yeah, that's okay to do this, and I had no reason to believe that I knew what I was doing. Right. And then you guys are all probably, we get asked a lot, what would you do here? What do you think about this? Like, I'm the last guy you want to ask for advice from. I lost my son, the sweetest, happiest, to everybody else, happiest to us, the best kid on the team, not player, just the best kind of kid. So what do you care about? Why do you want to know what I think? And what I've learned over these last 7-8 years is they're not trying to emulate it, right? They just need transparent information. What worked? If I have to sit down and tell my kid this is going to be uncomfortable, but I'm going to tell you how much you mean to me, and if this ever is part of your experience, I'm going to be here, morning, noon, and night, help, whatever I've got to do. I don't want you to be afraid. And so you sort of do those things, but it challenges you. Kym said it. You guys, I'm sure, have said it. We lost Tyler on our watch. Like, that's the fact. From there, you can say, well, it's not your fault. And we've read all the same books and listened to all those people. I'll leave it with this. There was we know this guy, this author, and Ross Zabo, sorry, wrote a book called Behind Happy Faces, and we did a talk out in California real soon after Tyler passed, within that year. And I remember sitting with him afterwards and just being just crying, pissed off, miserable. And we had this very quick conversation about whether or not suicide is its own disease, right? Neither of us are medical scientists. We don't know, but it seems like, we say that all the time. Tyler got sick, never got help, died from what he was suffering from. And maybe that, that disease, I know this, the only thing I can do, and I'll continue to do it, and all you guys are doing it, we keep talking about it. Like even in this little podcast, we're not afraid of it. We didn't just run back and hide and get away. We're dealing with it every day. And that's all I can do. I don't know if I don't have enough confidence in my understanding of what happened to ever help somebody beyond that. But if I can get them to feel that it's okay to talk about this and get help, and there won't be stigma and, all those things that we all do, then I feel like, you put in a good day at the office and try again tomorrow.
Yeah. Oof. Okay, the next question is sort of two-part. Uh, so how much of your child's identity was wrapped up in their sport? And knowing that, the answer to that, what would you tell your younger self, your younger dad, raising an athlete? So Steve, you want to start us off?
Sure. I think for Katie, she was definitely identified as a soccer player for sure, and she had some success with that. But for her, I think her identity was wrapped up more in who she was as a human being and a student. She loved school. She loved soccer. For her, soccer was her happy place. She loved it. She loved training. She had good relationship with her coaches. She was fine in that aspect. She really looked up to the ideal of her university, and she was heavily involved in many things there. And so for her, it may be a little different than some, and that's okay. I think the sport wasn't the end all be all for her. It just wasn't. Um, and so, that we have learned, it wasn't her being threatened to be removed from the soccer team
Yeah, from school.
that spiraled her.
Hmm.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay, Scott. How does that work for Sarah? Her
Yeah, I think
identity
it's
and yeah,
tough because I think there's the identity that others have, and then there's the identity that she had herself,
yeah,
and they're tough. Like it's a big part of the student athlete, that, and through high school, everywhere else, that's first. She's a runner. It's just such a big part of everything all the time. And as much as it wasn't all encompassing for her in so many ways. She thrived on doing so many other things. She never wanted to become a professional runner. It wasn't, but being a runner was very much who she was, and the sport was important, and team was incredibly important to her. So those parts of her identity, they were really critical to kind of who she was. And I think she struggled with um, all the things she did outside of the sport, and maybe they weren't always compatible in terms of being able to do everything else she always wanted to do. She was on student athlete council. She was this. She had worked for a state legislature. She did all these other things she was passionate about. But at the end, then it came back to, okay, the athlete part of it was so dominant a lot of the times that the identity was still there. The teams were still there. That was also her friends. It is somewhat just all encompassing at times. So I think the identity, it's just a conflict with maybe who she wants to be beyond her sport and the reality of where she was at. And it was tough. It's tough. And so I think, as parents, you see all those other things, but not everybody else always does it, always sees it. And so the identity first is always this. Okay, right. And so I think identity is a tough part of it. And I think for a lot of athletes that we talk to too, you can hear like the identity transition of like, especially for the college athletes, it at some point there, it's going to just end, and it can be abruptly. And whether or not, I think in Sarah's case, she thought maybe it was going to end abruptly just because of some stupid stuff, like really dumb. Like it wasn't, but that just that thought that, wait a minute, this whole idea, all of that could not be here soon. Something like, and so it's hard to see past that of what's your new identity? What would that even be?
Right.
And that's hard.
It is. Yeah. How about you and Morgan, Kurt? What did you see?
Well, again, Scott had a great point there. Morgan loved being on a team. She just always loved being on a team. And, she was certainly recognized here in our town and at her school that, that's an all world kid, you know. But it was easy to cheer and root for and like Morgan because people liked the person. It just happened to be that she was first team all state in everything, multiple sports. She was recognized that way. The papers always have a picture of her, on the cover of the sports section.
Mm-hmm.
And even going to a prominent university that is always ranked in the top 10, 15 of their sport, that just went along with, oh, well, of course that's Morgan. Of course Morgan will be there in that situation. But again, her whole thing was she liked a team more than she liked the sport.
Mm-hmm.
She if soccer in our state wasn't at the same time as lacrosse, there's pretty good odds Morgan would have been first team all state in soccer.
Wow.
She played it growing up, but you had to choose. And,
right.
So again, the people, they just recognized her as a great teammate. People liked her, for who she was. And I think one of the things, this sort of wraps with your question about your younger dad's self. Don and I were, again, all three of our kids played a ton of sports. Don and I both grew up playing, sports, everything. We didn't make a big deal. We can be a passionate fan, but we didn't make a big deal about wins or losses.
Yeah.
And, if you just say, listen, go out, have fun, give it your best shot. But at the end of the day, win or lose, it's not going to alter your life. There's a big, big world out there. There's going to be more things coming. There's going to be more events in your life. And winning the state championship, well, great. If you did, congratulations. If you didn't, okay, what's next? And so I think that helped. She picked up on that vibe too. You lose the ACC championship. Oh, well, let's go on and let's go. Where are we going to dinner?
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
kind of process it, but move on. And I don't know. I guess that's maybe one of the things I think I might have done right as a parent is not putting too much emphasis on victories or losses. All right. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I like to think that helped guide her to how to process things. And I don't know. Yeah, like I said, it's she made me proud. She made me very, very proud of how, and it still goes back to all the things that makes me so proud of her have nothing to do with sports accolades. It makes me very proud of her as who she was as a human being.
Yeah.
And then it just makes me go, how on earth did this happen? Why am I here on this panel with these wonderful people? And I gotta say, this has been like a great therapy session,
Oh, yeah.
talking with you all and
You guys need to do this.
hearing your stories, and this has been very emotional. I'm surprised I'm keeping it together right now, just talking. But it's one of those things. Like I do question. I go back to questioning: how could someone so uh, put together, so well put together? How did this slip into her soul as a choice? And it's just one of those things. It just makes you, yeah. You wake up in the middle of the night sometimes going, what happened?
Right.
But
Every night for me. Mark, what you want to share a little bit around the identity and what you
Yeah.
tell your younger self?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think Tyler, it's funny when all three of our guys played all the sports, but in high school they started focusing on football. They all played the same position, as you know. Um, and Tyler, I think the identity was less about football and more about being athletic. Whether it was, I mean, Kym could tell you every time we go to Kauai and it was, okay, is it your turn to try to get Tyler off the boogie board, and take a shower and meet us at dinner? He just wanted to be doing stuff, and he didn't care about winning so much on the other sport. In football, he did. In football, Saban has said it a million times, and others obviously before him, but he, if I'm being honest, there were times when the losses hurt more than the big wins mattered. And I remember Kym and I sitting in Sherman Oaks one day, and you brought it up, Kurt, with the day after the game. We cooked the food. We're bringing the Gatorade and the bagels and stuff, and the daily when people read papers were spread out across the benches, and every paper had my oldest one more than Tyler, but he's a quarterback. That's who they get. They don't know what they're doing either, half these writers, but that I remember those conversations, and Kym and I even said, or I told Kym, there's 100 kids on this team, and 60 of their parents are right here, and it's not embarrassing, but I can imagine it's off-putting to just see one or two of the same kid. Kalfani Muhammad was one of the running backs, and he was in the paper all the time. And I think Tyler's identity, a lot like Kurt, he enjoyed the guys. He would have done anything for those guys, and he, in many cases, he did. Save a couple teammates from making really bad decisions, and it was no big thing. Like nothing rattled him, it seemed. The younger version of me, I would, or any of us, I'm sure I would tell, is you can never be complacent. But my God, guys, I had so many talks with Tyler about the sport, about his, and he would say to me, do you need help? We're always trying to fix stuff. You need a coach up there? There's some turnover on the staff. Do you need this? And I remember him looking at me going, God, no, I'm fine. I'm not going to the pros. Like, he had zero ambition for the next year. What he did, the time he called me when he was down in Lewiston, was the time he had to go talk in front of him. Right. So this would be his last year alive. Nobody knew it, of course. But he called me and he goes, Dad, and I was on the road working. And I remember he called and he said, I have like 10 minutes to talk to the team. Like, well, okay, what are you going to say? He goes, I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. One of those. But there was a nervous laugh in there. Right. And he didn't care about embarrassing himself. He didn't care about saying the right thing as much as he cared about, yeah, because I said, what do you want them to hear? And he goes, that I love them. Say it. And I think he did in that particular case, but I felt like I had talked about that so much that I felt like I was imposing, So I'll let him grow up, don't give him the damn word for word. Don't. So, and I was so proud that I did, right? And we kind of stumbled on that together. And I go, you're going to say if it's in your heart, you're going to say, that's it, Dad. I got it. I'll do fine. I just wish I could have followed up on that more, right?
Yeah. Okay, I know we're going long, but we're just gonna a couple more questions. I don't want to throw myself in the panel, but I will share that I have been seeing a psychiatrist for the last couple of years because I cannot sleep. I don't sleep. So I have to take an Ambien so that I can sleep. Mark knows. Just always spinning. But a question I asked the doctor, Dr. Fowler, when I was there a couple months ago, I just asked him, and how does he know the answer to this? But the answer that he told me, I thought of you guys right away. Am I ever going to be happy again? Am I ever going to find a place in my heart where I can love, fully love again without being afraid? And his answer was, that will happen, and it will happen when you become a grandmother. Your heart will change and grow in ways that you have never experienced. So this is for Steve and Kurt. How has being a grandfather, changed your heart, helped you through this grieving process? And start us out, Kurt.
Well, it, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. We were very fortunate that my son and daughter and their spouses, we've gotten closer. We were always a close family, but I think Morgan's passing has helped us come to. I mean, we're truly like live each day.
Yeah.
Tell every person that you love them. Very outcoming with our emotions, and it's really helped. Keep us together. I think it could easily have gone the other way, but I'm very very thankful that our family has grown closer from this. So, and I'm very proud of my children for being able to continue with life,
Mhm.
and their weddings were fantastic. Um, but yeah, now that we've got two grandsons, Averly has a son, and she is due for her second child in
Oh,
May. Uh,
wow.
Austin has a son, but it's so cool. It's just, man, and we have the benefit of being older now, so your lens is different
Mhm.
as to what it was when we were in our 30s having children. Um, but it's such a great blessing, and it's funny because we my kids are pretty well put together too. I mean, they're good parents, they're responsible people, and so Don and I just try to tell them, I look, don't worry about it, don't worry. And it's because, again, we have the benefit of experienced lenses, right?
Sure.
Life, it's like, well, you don't get all worked up over that he's not sleeping. He'll fall asleep when he's ready. you know um, so I think we help give them some good balance
Yeah.
just
Oh,
by
that's
being,
great.
you know, the child will absolutely be safe. We get to babysit all the time.
All right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
Fun.
I'm just really so thankful that they live close by too.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Great. Is that the same for you, Steve, too? Grandpa?
Yeah, and I just want to circle back. I think I missed answering your question earlier about what I'd say to my younger self as a father. Uh, Katie and I, and myself and my oldest daughter, myself and my youngest daughter, and Gina included, like, we talked about everything. And, you know, I talked to Katie about everything from how to change a tire to what to do in just various and assorted situations in life that may come up. And the one thing I never thought to tell her, and I don't think any parent would at that time, especially given their personality, is I hope please never take your own life.
Yeah.
It will shatter those who love you for the rest of theirs. But I never would have comprehended or had the notion to bring that up with her
Yeah.
because she had such a lust for life her entire
Yeah.
being. And, you know, it's tough because I sometimes, when we get done talking, Gina and I, to different populations of athletes or students, you know, we do get kids coming up to us, young people coming up to us, you know, and they will be very forthright about they're really struggling right now.
Mhm.
And I spoke to our therapist about what to say. And he's an older gentleman who's been doing this for decades, thankfully. And I said, sometimes I just tell them, I'm really honest, like, please don't take your own life.
Yeah.
Please, if you
Yeah.
find yourself heading into that headspace, I know it's easy to say you need to share with somebody, but you kind of do. You know, somebody's got to know. And so I just wanted to circle back to that. And then in terms of the grandkids, I think for me and my wife, it it has allowed us to experience life not just through the eyes of a parent who's lost a child to a suicide, but when we're young parents, we and grandparents of young children, it's great to see the world again through the eyes of toddlers. And it's awesome. We have them every day at 6:30 in the morning. We had them today. I went and picked them up and I bring them back here and they get so excited. They know they're going to grandma's house.
Oh.
And
It's grandma's house.
uh, the kitchen is going when I bring the boys in. And the older one is just over 2. He knows to sit down in his little chair. The baby is a little more than 9 months. I put him in the high chairs and they're just like, what's on the menu today? At grandma's house. And out comes the food. And then that happens. And then I take them in the double stroller and I give Gina a break for a little over an hour. And we do the neighborhood. And that's when I'm saying, see the world through the eyes of a toddler. We're able to slow everything down
Yeah.
and talk about how this flower is folded up this morning because it was dark out and it needs the sun to open. Like really slow everything down. And
Yeah.
we have a very simple, great neighborhood for that. I have put old toys in and around different spots in the neighborhood, and our neighbors have gotten on board with it, especially the older ones, like my age and up, where they're literally putting out little barns and tiny little dolls and things and dinosaur figurines. And so our neighborhood has turned into this sort of little tour where the kids can check on all these things. And it's a mix of also some young families in the neighborhood who have little toddlers of their own. And I'm watching, like I have a whole thing set up across the street with a dinosaur that's got a rabbit in its mouth. Like just it's super eclectic, like just this mix of toys that have happened. And I see toddlers playing over there, and you know, it's the best. And the heartbreaking side of it, I'm forthright, is my goodness, I wish Katie was here to be an aunt because she would have been unbelievable. And but she's not. So she's with us when we walk, you know,
Yeah.
and I talk to them about her. I do. And there's a tree over this way I've carved the number 19 into, and I take them there every once in a while and they put their hand on the 19 and that's that. But to be able to move forward, the other thing, our very wise person said to me, you'll never get over what has happened. You just won't. The best that you can do is manage it. And that's why I'm in awe of everybody on this panel and your wives. You guys have been managing it in your ways the best that you can. And that's all I think we can do. And I think that's what our children who passed away would want for us all. And I'm just honored to be a part of this and in awe of you guys, all of you, for managing it the way you have. It's remarkable. Hats off to you all and your wives.
Yeah, I know they feel the same about you, Steve and Gina, and your family. And on that, I'm gonna be respectful of your time. And if you guys want to add anything, talk, back and forth to each other, ask questions, let me know. Otherwise, we can sign off and we'll, maybe think about Katie and Morgan and Sarah and Tyler a little bit more tonight, knowing that they're together, right? In that big athletic field up in the sky. And I always believe that we're going to see them again, but we have a lot of work to do until that day happens, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to everyone as well. I this is going to sound so strange. I do enjoy seeing you guys,
Mm.
and and this type of talk. Some of it is just, it's like just being able to hear another dad say what I'm feeling helps me to realize I'm not going insane. That how I feel is is okay to feel the way I feel, but this is again it's ridiculous. It's a juxtaposition of terms, but it is great to see you guys, and thank you for including me on this panel, because again it helps. It helps me to heal. So again, thank you.
Thank you for your courage. And I always just say for strength, but it's you're just your love for your daughter, right? That's why you do what you do.
Oh, yeah, and I got to tell you guys, we should do this more often, just to have these conversations, because we see you guys in the remnants of your foundations, or the stories that you tell, or the things that you accomplish, everywhere we go, and we always feel like we're all part of the same team. We all do it slightly differently and have other things to take care of, but it is a group. It's a team. Steve, I'm with you that I'm grateful not to be alone, or Kurt saying, we feel this way, and it doesn't matter how many times we say it seems like, right? It's one of those, I don't know who told you, but that a wise man told me the same thing. Steve, I remember asking Ivan Maisel, we're sitting here talking about Tyler and doing this thing for game day or whatever, and it hit me. I'm in this little kitchen in Irvine, and that guy lost his son 2 years before us. And his he's a sardonic guy, but he goes, I said, I was embarrassed, right? Like, why are we talking about Tyler? We should be talking about everybody that one of those. And he goes, well, my son was the least athletic kid I've ever met. And, this is about athletes, and it all helps, and it's all those things. And I was thrilled when he wrote his book. But I asked him the question, what are they not telling me? Tell me the thing no one's going to tell me, And he didn't hesitate. He just goes, they're going to tell you it gets better. It never gets better. You'll figure out how to work with it and around it, but it doesn't go away, and it never gets better. It's hard. And the sooner you get over the fact that it's going to not just disappear on, 7/7/27 or whatever, better off you'll be. And I think that was great advice back then. And anyway, I not to wander on, but I'm cheering for you guys. we're in a club nobody ever dreams of joining, which to me, in listening to you guys, we're all in the same spot, right? Whatever they were doing or playing or being, none of us expected this. And to know you guys and watch what you've done and the passion you have for your kids and your foundations, I'm honored to be, part of that group. So thank you for doing this, and thanks for having me, Kym. Let's stay in touch.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Scott, do you want to add any last words before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd echo a lot of what you guys had to say, and it's we're in a little bit more unique spot, and it's kind of weird. We're so grateful that 15 minutes away from us are Steve and Gina.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this weird thing that we're now part of has actually, I mean, that's been a blessing. I mean, it's shocking that we had never met before, given the backgrounds of Katie and Sarah, and the parallel, everything else, and our joint friend, everything else. So at times we get to go through this stuff together. And at times, the very first time we met, I don't know if it was 3 months maybe after their passing, we just met for coffee. We'd never met, but like similar to this conversation right here, we've all got this terrible thing in common, but it also cuts through a lot of the BS. You can be pretty open. A lot of the junk that comes with suicide and loss. We don't have to. It's pretty nice to be able to have other dads to talk to who they know exactly what you're going through. And so we've been fortunate in that way. But I think always talking about it helps. Kurt, when we met, that's the most surreal thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, we met 30 minutes before walking on stage with Dr. whatever his name is.
Right.
Dr. Phil, is that his name?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's the most surreal thing ever. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I mean, you kind of like,
Right.
but then I'm like, okay, maybe somebody takes something away from it. So let's go do this thing. And that's what we continue to do, and all the time. And it's been, that part's been incredibly helpful. And always, and just seeing what you guys are always doing is just kind of keeps you going of like, okay, yep, whatever this thing, all right, let's go do it. It may be helpful. We may not know what we're doing, but talking about it might just help somebody. And certainly, as hard as it is when you're done, you're like, God, it helped me too. It helped me too.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it helped me too. So thanks for setting this up, Kym. I think this was
Absolutely. Thanks for being a part of this.
like so many things we do. Hard, but helpful and good. Right.
I know it's exhausting, and grief can be exhausting, right?
Yeah.
But you guys, you really are strong. And the definition of that to me is just love, right? There's just so much love in your heart. So thank you for being authentic today, transparent, opening your heart, sharing your stories. And I hope we see each other like 2-3 weeks in Colorado. Is that it? I think so. Hopefully everyone will be there. Yeah. All right. Take care, dads. All right. I'll be
See you
thinking about you.
guys.